Welcome to the Max and Vitamin J Review the Monday Night Wars, Episode 1. This is Episode 1. Vitamin J and I, as you can see, he is a shark, not a man. You'll get that reference later if you don't know what I'm talking about. That will come in 1996. But Vitamin J and I, we grew up during the Attitude Era, but we didn't start watching wrestling until about 1998, 1999. So we missed so many monumental moments, such as the formation of the NWO, Stone Cold when he first came up, The Rock when he first came up, Goldberg. So we missed a whole bunch of that stuff. So we decided, hey, why don't we just do that? Let's go watch the whole Monday Night Wars. And we'll start from the very beginning. And we'll just watch it all the way through to the death of WCW and see how everything transpired. And throughout, we're going to review each episode by week. And then we'll give you the rundown of what happened. And then at the end of each week, we will tell you which show we thought won. And then we'll keep a running tally. And then at the very end, we'll see which one we thought overall will win the war, which I'm going to assume it'll be WWE since WCW at the end got really bad, which we're in for a treat when we get to there because I haven't seen that either. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and start with the first episode of the Monday Night War, which coincidentally was not a head-to-head. Eric Bischoff, he thought a little bit. The first episode was on September 4th, 1995. This was the first episode of Nitro, and they ran unopposed because there was no Raw this week because we had to have the Westminster Dog Show.
That was brilliant from Bischoff because he knew it's like, oh, somebody wants to watch wrestling, they're going to tune in to Nitro. I'm trying to see what the rating was for the first Nitro. That's what I'm about to look up. Yeah, so they had 2.5, which is what Raw pulled in next week. So essentially, pretty much that similar audience just migrated to Nitro.
Yeah, they're like, Raw's not on. Let's go ahead and watch some wrestling. In case anyone doesn't know, the Monday Night Wars is Raw versus Nitro, WCW versus WWF. Previously, before this, Raw was running unopposed, at least to my knowledge, from any other wrestling promotion. So Eric Bischoff, instead of putting his show on another day, he said, you know what? I want to kill the competition. So let's go right after WWF. And that's what they did. And then they started again with the first episode, September 4th, 1995, in the Mall of America in Minnesota. To start the show, the announcers were Bischoff, Bobby Heenan, and Steve Mongo McMichael. And I believe this was Mongo's first appearance, as far as I know, because you see him introduce himself to Bobby the Brain Heenan. So it looks like that's the first time they met.
That'd be a good wrestling trivia question. What was the first ever Nitro match? Because I would totally know it.
I would now.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, the first Nitro match, in case anyone wants the trivia answer, was Jushin Thunder Liger versus Flying Brian Pillman. We're not going to go into full detail of move by move. We'll maybe just say something we thought caught our attention during the match. For this match, the two kind of had some issues. Some of them spots looked kind of rough in the beginning, but they worked it out.
And then I will mention that during the early part of Monday Wars, the shows were only 1 hour, so the matches aren't going to be as long as people are used to.
Both shows were an hour, which means this first almost a year of these reviews will be a bit quicker than the later ones, because when they get to 2 hours, the Nitro gets to be 3 hours. And we also will be covering SmackDown and Thunder when that comes, because that is included in even though it's Monday Night Wars, that's still a part of the war. So we're going to include it.
If you got to watch it to keep up the storylines, then we're going to have to watch it too.
Yep. We've even watched Superstars and Saturday Night.
Yes.
But for this match, Brian Pillman won clean, which I was kind of surprised by because at this point, Jushin Thunder Liger was a bigger name. But I guess I kind of see it because he's not staying here long term.
Yeah, that's why I think they did it. Liger was a bigger name, but they want their guy to win so they can build him up. But I mean, honestly, from this point until he joins the Horsemen, he didn't really do anything.
Right, yeah, he had a couple, well, we'll get there, but he had a couple matches, but yeah, they didn't do much with him, and he definitely wasn't he's definitely not playing the loose cannon part yet.
Yeah.
But Brian Pillman wins. After they have a handshake after the match, and after that, we see a video of Sting promoting his match with Flair later on. He tells Flair that no one can get in his face like he can, and no one does a Scorpion Deathlock like him. Not much there, just hyping up the match. And then right after that, we get pretty much a sales pitch or an infomercial for Pasta Mania. We see Hogan in I believe in the Mall of America, or he's somewhere. And he's at a Hulk Hogan Pasta Mania shop with a group of fans, and he's just promoting the Pastamania, which he famously said he chose that product to promote over the George Foreman grill. In an alternate universe, we could all have Hulk Hogan grills instead of George Foreman's.
I'd say it's like, would it have sold well if it was Hogan versus Foreman?
No, I doubt it.
Yeah.
Sounds better.
A likable guy. I mean, Hogan's, at the time was like, well, unless you watch 95, 96 Hogan, which we'll definitely get into.
Another funny thing with Pastamania, I think shortly after this, it died off. Because as far as I was watching, they never mentioned Pastamania again. So I think it was an instant failure. But after we had the Pastamania commercial there, we do go to Flair versus Sting for the United States Championship. And Sting is the United States champion at this point. And during this match, big deal actually, Lex Luger walks up. He doesn't do anything. He just walks up and observes the match and then leaves at some point during the match. Doesn't do anything, but still a big deal. And I'll explain why later, why Lex Luger was a big deal coming to WCW. Later on during the match, Arn Anderson comes out and watches the match. He is not watching it to be on Flair's side, though. He's watching it to be more on Sting's side because Arn and Flair are having some issues at this particular time, and the match ends with a DQ, I believe, or they might have called it a no contest.
I think it was changed to like a no contest or something.
Yeah, because Ric Flair puts the figure 4 on Sting and holds it to a 5 count. So the ref DQs him, and then Arn Anderson comes in. I think then the ref switches it to no contest. Arn Anderson attacks Flair, and then Flair leaves. So they're setting up their feud coming up. You have any thoughts on that match, Jacob?
No, because it's pretty much like most Sting and Ric Flair matches, which are good, but it's pretty formulated.
You're right. We have seen already, when even a year into our watching, and we've probably seen 5 or 6 Flair versus Sting matches. And also in every Flair Sting match, Flair will chop Sting when he's in the figure 4, and Sting will flex his muscles at him and scream at him.
Absolutely will.
They've wrestled a lot, and unfortunately, a lot of the matches are very similar. But after that match, Scott Norton comes down to the ring and starts yelling at Bischoff, saying he wants a match. And then out comes Macho Man saying pretty much, hey, if you want to fight, I'll fight you right here, right now. But Bischoff says, you're not going to fight right here, right now. You're going to fight another time. And so Norton leaves. I don't know if that's Norton's debut to WCW. I would assume so. You could hear him talking about how he signed a contract. He wants to fight. That's a short little Scott Norton introduction. And then after that, we get a hype video for Sabu. And he has a short run in WCW. I think he's here just for maybe a few months.
So he debuts on the 9/11, 95 or not, because the video package was 9/4, and then he's done. He's done around Halloween.
Yeah, he does not last long. And of course, we all know he goes to ECW and then becomes a Sabu everyone knows and loves. But then after the video package plays, there's a commercial break, and then we go to another promotional thing from Mean Gene advertising the Harley Davidson sweepstakes. Nothing grand there. After that, we get another kind of useless promotional video for VK Wall Street.
Yeah.
Who was Mike Rotunda, who played IRS in WWF. VK, in case anyone doesn't know, was called a rib at Vincent Kennedy McMahon. So VK was for Vincent Kennedy.
But we won't see him much for a little bit until 96.
He's kind of a jobber to the stars at this point. Wall Street just was a different version of his IRS gimmick, I guess. Except this one had money. The other one was trying to take your money away. So then we go to the main event, which was Hulk Hogan, who was a WCW champion, versus Big Bubba Rogers. And this is for the WCW heavyweight title. And of course, the winner was Hogan. This was a longer match than I thought it would be, just because the opponent wasn't... No one really bought that he was going to beat Hogan for the title. Yeah. But the worst part of this was that this match was while Hogan was still in the middle of his feud with the Dungeon of Doom. You will hear Jacob and I complain about the Dungeon of Doom pretty much for eternity. We hate it.
We'll go on the record. It is one of the worst things in wrestling history.
Yes, it is. And you will see, because we'll go over some of this stuff here, and it's just terrible. And it went on for a long time. So Hogan wins, of course, with the leg drop and everything. But after the match, the Dungeon of Doom attack Hogan, and then Lex Luger comes out to make the save. And I said this was big that Luger was there, because Luger, literally the weekend before this, was at a WWF house show. He literally left WWF, and like a day or two later was at WCW. And this was not known to anybody besides Bischoff at the time because WWF thought he was going to re-sign with them, and to see him show up on the opposing company's show pretty much a day or two later was huge.
God,
so
I would have loved to have been in the room and see how pissed Vince McMahon was.
Because he didn't see it coming, and Vince was very upset that Bischoff was essentially stealing his wrestlers, even though Vince McMahon would later return the favor and do the same thing. But so then after Lex Luger makes the save, Mean Gene comes out and interviews both men. Luger says he would like a title shot. He said he's tired of playing with kids, shot at the WWF, and he wants to wrestle with the big boys, which is what the slogan for WCW Nitro was, where the big boys play. And Hogan says that he knows where Luger came from, and if he shakes his hand right here, right now, he would get his match. And the match is made for next week, and the show ends with both wrestlers staring down at each other.
It was smart for them to do that, to get the buzz off of Luger coming in, and he's already getting a title match the next week.
Well, I should also note that 8 days prior, Luger wrestled at SummerSlam, so it was a big WWE event he was just at, and Sting was the one who convinced Luger to come to WCW. So, all right, so since they were unopposed, we're not going to count this into our official tally, just because we're only going to count weeks where they went head-to-head, or at least had a show during the same week. I think there's maybe a week or two where one was on Monday, one might have been on Wednesday. No winner this week, but WCW gets the first shot by getting Lex Luger. And kind of the format from here, we're going to go segment by segment for each show when they both have a show during the same week. That way we can say, hey, I like this opening segment better versus this one. All right. So now we're going to move on to September 11th of 1995. WCW is in Miami, Florida, and WWF is in Canton, Ohio. We'll go Nitro first. Nitro opens up with a recap of last week's events, and then they have an announcement that Vader is AWOL and will not be at the upcoming pay-per-view. In case you don't know, Vader left the company because he got in a fight with Paul Orndorff. And it depends on who you believe, but most stories say Paul Orndorff knocked Vader down and pretty much beat the brakes out of him.
That's very impressive if that's true.
Of course, Vader says it's not true. Paul Orndorff says it is, and other wrestlers I've seen have said Paul Orndorff beat him.
Yeah, you can't ask either one about it anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, but this, like I said earlier with the last one, of Bischoff stealing wrestlers from WWF, well, Vince is going to return the favor and sign Vader here very soon. The first match for WCW this week was Sabu versus Alex Wright. The winner at first was Sabu. Alex Wright at the time was only 20 years old. That's incredible.
Yeah, it seemed like they would always show him for a little bit and then he would disappear, so they couldn't decide they wanted to push him or not.
They did. Even while I'm at there still, sometimes he'll be there, but most times he's not. Which Alex Wright had some pretty good athleticism. Sabu did too. Of course, you're not going to see Sabu's extreme spots while he's in WCW, but Sabu won at first. He won with a move off the top rope. But after the match,
a leg drop or something.
Yeah. After the match, Sabu attacks Alex Wright and puts him through a table. And the ref then reverses the decision. So officially, Alex Wright won the match. And so for WWF, we open up with a recap of the Razor Ramon Shawn Michaels Intercontinental title match at SummerSlam that Shawn Michaels won. But the first match was Razor Ramon versus Bulldog with Jim Cornette. And the winner was the British Bulldog by DQ. And the Bulldog at this stage had just turned heel, and he had recently cut his hair.
Yep.
Big mistake?
To cut the hair.
Oh, to cut the hair? I didn't hate the hair. I don't think I dislike the Bulldog as much as you do.
No, I don't dislike him. It's just that the work he's putting in right now when we're watching it isn't good.
He's still impressively strong.
I prefer Tag Team Davey.
Bulldog shows some pretty good athleticism here for a big guy his size. I believe he does some, they do some chain wrestling. And he does some of the flips that normally come with that. And I was surprised to see him do that. And during this match, I have it noted that Bulldog military presses Razor Ramon straight up. So he doesn't even have a bend. He straight up lifts Razor Ramon up.
It was not a challenge for Bulldog to pick
No,
him up.
And I looked it up. At this point, Razor Ramon was billed to have weighed 287 pounds. So
he needed to put the clip of the clean pickup from.
But the match finish is Dean Douglas comes out and hits Razor Ramon with a dive off the top rope. 1, 2, 3 Kid comes out to try to help Razor Ramon, but Dean Douglas takes care of him. And after Dean Douglas takes down 1-2-3 Kid, the Bulldog hits Razor Ramon with a running power slam while the ref is down. And then as he's pinning Razor, 1-2-3 Kid dives off the turnbuckle, but Bulldog moves out of the way, and the 1-2-3 Kid hits Razor Ramon. And for some reason, Razor Ramon gets DQ'd. And then after the match, the Bulldog and Cornette attack Razor Ramon and a 1-2-3 Kid. So between that match versus the Sabu Alex Wright, WWF wins that first segment.
Yeah. Basically, the Sabu match was basically just to show how extreme Sabu was. And then this match, obviously, was to get heat on the heels, but I think it was the better match overall.
Yes, and I think it's more, like you said, more story intensive to where it's more, they give you more reason to care about it. You know, you got the Bulldog turning heel, you got Dean Douglas and Razor Ramon feuding, and then you have 1-2-3 Kid, who's Razor Ramon's friend, helping out. So you have multiple things going on, whereas you just get a basic showcase match. All right, and so the next segment, we'll go back to WCW. Flair came down to the ring and talks about how him and Arn Anderson used to walk side by side, because remember, they're feuding at this point. And he says Arn has left him. A Luger comes down to the ring in his ring gear, and Flair hypes him up and saying that Luger will beat Hogan tonight. And then Luger, he's a Flair, you're too much. And then he just leaves. It was kind of weird to have Luger come down just to be gassed up by Ric Flair and then leave. He didn't really say anything.
Yeah, so the first month or maybe even 2 months of Luger on Nitro was kind of weird. And then he's finding his footing in '96. He's really good in '96, but it just seems like a few awkward missteps from when they first brought him in.
So we had that promo. Vince, after the Razor and 1-2-3 Kid segment, we go back to see Vince McMahon in the ring interviewing Razor Ramon and 1-2-3 Kid. Vince tells 1-2-3 Kid that he cost Razor Ramon the match, and 1-2-3 Kid says that Razor cost him his match against Dean Douglas. So the 1-2-3 Kid says he wants to fight Razor Ramon and get some respect from him, because he feels like Razor doesn't give him any respect and just treats him as a kid, as his name say.
Taking him seriously.
And Razor Ramon says anything can happen in the WWF, and he was the one who made the 1-2-3 Kid famous, and the match is made for next week. So for this promo segment, and when we do this, we're not necessarily going to time them out to see what time did they actually happen. We're just going to go in order. We're not going to get that into the weeds with it.
Just gonna do what's on camera.
So as far as those promo segments go, I guess I gotta get to WWF again, because there's more meat on the bone there, and it was just really awkward for have Luger come out and not say anything and just leave. It's really weird.
Yeah, I go WWF.
All right, so after that, WCW has a Sting, who again is the U.S. champion, versus VK Wall Street, and the match is for the United States Championship. During this match, Bischoff has the first verbal shot at WWF. He says, "Don't change the channel. The other show is 2 weeks old," and he reads the results for tonight's Raw, saying Shawn Michaels will beat Sid Vicious at the main event.
When on our rewatches, I'm mad when he does it. I'm like, man.
I know. That's why most of the time I will watch WWF first. Unless I really want to watch it.
I watch it segment by segment.
So I know you do. You did differently than I did. Yeah. This was a short, quick match. Sting wins with a crossbody from the top turnbuckle.
When he wrestles like non-main eventers, he loves winning in ways like that, like crossbodies and.
I don't hate. Some people may hate it because you don't see the finisher, but it's fine.
We will see Sting slap on the Scorpion Deathlock plenty.
All right, so that's done with that match. The other match, or the match on WWF at the time, is going to be Smoking Guns versus the versus the Brooklyn Brawler and Rod Redford or Red Redford.
Rad Radford.
The winner is Smoking Guns. Rest in peace to Mr. Radford there.
The other people, if you're more WCW, he was Louis Spicoli for that little bit.
I do have a note here that says the only notable thing about this match was the Smoking Guns' mustaches.
Yeah,
they had some really bad mustaches.
Yeah, really bad mustaches. My only thoughts was, I was like, I did not know Red Radford and the Brooklyn Brawler were teamed up.
Just put two jobbers together. But for this segment, I'm going to have to give it to WCW, just because even though both matches weren't great or very notable, Sting is the biggest star. At least I like him the best, so he wins because
at least that has Sting.
We'll talk more about why this our opinion changed on this later once we get more into the show. But growing up, we didn't care for Surfer Sting at all.
Nope,
at all. But during our watches, we're like, you know what? Surfer Sting was actually pretty dang good.
We have grown to appreciate Surfer Sting. And growing up, I didn't care much for Lex Luger. And once 96 rolls around, we're gonna be we will be hyping up Luger quite a bit.
And don't think we're just going to fall in love with everybody. There are a couple big names here, one for each show in particular, that we can't much stand around this time. So yeah, WCW gets their first point. So after that, we have, for WCW, we have Scott Norton versus Macho Man. And if you remember, this was set up in the previous week's Nitro when Norton came out wanting the competition, and Macho Man says, "I'll be your competition." So they have a match. During the match, it is announced, before that match, Bischoff quickly mentions that next week will be the debut of Disco Inferno. So we got that going for us.
God.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And we're not joking. We actually like Disco Inferno. Okay. We don't mind it a bit.
Oh, the fans liked him at the time, too, because he got heat.
Beautiful hair.
He's annoying on Twitter, though.
Like we said, we separate the wrestler from the actual person. For this match, Norton gets the early offense because he's overpowering Macho Man. Because if you don't know who Scott Norton is, he has a bodybuilder's physique, a powerlifter's physique.
Tank.
And then I have a note here that Scott Norton hits Macho Man with a nasty-looking top rope DDT. The Dungeon of Doom come out during the match to attack Macho Man, and Shark then falls down on Norton's legs, so Norton can't get up, and Macho Man hits the elbow drop for the win. And then Norton and Shark start yelling at each other after the match, because eventually they're going to have a match. But yeah, it's just more, now Macho Man is being included since he's Hogan's friend. He's going to be included in this stupid Dungeon of Doom feud.
I didn't think they were going to give Norton a match with like Savage. I thought they were going to have him beat some like cupcakes first. Because it seemed like they wanted him to do well. But then like you put him in a match with Savage and right off the bat he loses in like 5 minutes. Okay,
so we got that match. And what we have for Raw, I think these are played back to back, so we'll include them in the same segment. As a Goldust vignette plays, he says, "The Undertaker is a dark cloud over the WWF, and he will be sent to the heavens by Goldust," which the vignette was fine, and this is before Goldust has not wrestled yet. He has not wrestled yet in WWF, so they're still setting him up. But he doesn't feud with Undertaker right away, so I was kind of caught off guard with the Undertaker mention, because he doesn't feud with Undertaker for
it's like till
a few months after he comes in. So that was weird, but
I love Goldust vignettes.
They're great. Yeah, they're still great even to where I'm at in there. I love them. I listen to every word.
Just the way he does like the movie quotes and just the freaking innuendo is just.
I would say the way you love the way he's going to set up his innuendo every time.
Like this stuff. Oh my god! When we get to him and Piper, that's going to be nuts.
It's good. It's good stuff. But the match we have is Isaac Yankem versus Scott Taylor. I have here pretty much the only notable thing was Isaac Yankem hit a sloppy choke slam, and the only reason that was notable to me is because we all know Isaac Yankem is Kane, and Kane hits great choke slams. So he hits a pretty ugly looking choke slam here, but he wins with the DDT. I have on here that this match got no reaction from the crowd, which makes sense because it got no reaction from me. WCW wins this easy.
If that match happened just 2 years later, that match would get a reaction.
Yeah, I would actually care a little bit.
Yeah, Kane versus Sky Dehada. Yeah, that might be interesting.
WCW wins this one.
Yeah.
You get Macho Man. I mean, but the last segment for WCW this week is the big main event: Lex Luger versus Hulk Hogan for the WCW Heavyweight Championship. Unfortunately, as WCW like to do, this with most WCW Championship matches on Nitro, it ended in disqualification. This one was Hogan by DQ. The crowd is excited for this match. So Luger, near the end of the match, he has Hulk Hogan in the torture rack. And then Luger drops Hogan because he thought he heard that the ref said he won. He just drops him. It seemed like no reason, but the announcers say he must have thought Hogan tapped out. But he didn't. And Luger, when he goes to attack Hogan again, Hogan, as he always does, he hulks up. And then he hits Luger with a leg drop. And as he's doing that, the Dungeon of Doom come out and attack Hogan, cause into the DQ. And then Macho Man and Sting come out to assist Hogan. And they clear the ring of the Dungeon of Doom. And then there's an interview. Mean Gene then comes in to interview everybody. And then Mean Gene asks Hulk Hogan, what is he going to do? Because Vader is AWOL. Vader is supposed to be on his team for the Fall Brawl. Because Vader was supposed to be on Team Hogan for Fall Brawl. So Hogan comes out and he says, well, Vader's not going to be there. Luger, what do you want to be on my team? And then Sting says, yeah, that's a great idea. Luger should replace Vader. But Macho Man says he doesn't trust Lex Luger and asks why the Dungeon of Doom didn't attack him. And then Hogan kind of says, hey, calm down, Mach. Let's have Luger be part of the team. And if Luger is part of the team, he will get another shot at the WCW title.
Hogan's storylines at this time are just so convoluted.
Yeah, he's got like 3 or 4 different things going on because he's like setting up a Lex Luger kind of deal.
He's got beef with Savage, Luger, and then at some point Sting. Like
he just has
he's got beef with everybody.
I forgot. I should have started. Sorry. Each week from here on, as long as Mongo McMichael is on commentary, I will have my Pepe outfit of the week. And if you don't know who Pepe is, he's the Chihuahua that Mongo carries around with him. And Pepe's outfit of the week, sombrero and bandana.
Oh,
look at you, Pepe. Look at him. Look at Pepe. What a beauty. I have a Chihuahua. That's why I have a Pepe segment of the week. My Chihuahua's named Rambo.
It's a wrap.
All right. Leave him alone. All right, so now we're going to go to the main event of Raw. And again, these kind of ran concurrent, so I'm going to include them in the last segment. We haven't announced that Diesel and Shawn Michaels are going to go against Owen Hart and Yokozuna at the In Your House pay-per-view, and it'll be a winner-take-all match. Diesel is the WWF champion, Shawn Michaels is the Intercontinental champion, and Owen Hart and Yokozuna are the tag team champions. So the winner of the match, whichever team wins, will then get the other team's belts. That's what they're going for.
And attitudes.
Yeah, I was going to wait till they have a promo. Those two at that time, Kevin Nash is a cool dude. Let's be real about that. And Shawn Michaels at times can be. Now he made more plays a goofy dad, but
HB Shizzle.
Anyways, they are cool. But in these segments, sometimes they have them do when they do the 2 dudes with attitude, it's just forced. You're forcing it upon me.
It's very, very forced.
But the main event is Shawn Michaels, who is the Intercontinental Champion, versus Sid Vicious, and the match is for the Intercontinental title.
I remember liking this match.
Yeah, it's not a bad match. I do have a note here that says this was not a bad match, but the two had a better match in the future, which I'm referencing their WWF title match that we have in '96. Yeah, that was a very good match. Shawn Michaels wins after 2 Sweet Chin Musics. This is at a time where Vince is heavy, almost really overdoing his Shawn Michaels praise.
He gushes about Shawn, and I won't say what the rumor is, but there is a certain rumor about HBK and Vince that I 100% have to believe after all this Vince gushing. I totally believe it.
But after that match, Doc Hendricks quickly interviews Diesel and Shawn Michaels. Shawn says he is righting all the wrongs of his past, and Diesel says they're going to be the 2 chaps with all the straps. I thought that was a really bad line. So that's another example of them trying to force themselves being cool. But I would say for the main event, now each show is tied 2-2 as far as how we're doing the segments here.
I got WWF. I got WWF.
You got WWF?
I got WWF.
I got WCW.
That's interesting.
So, so looks like Jake and I have difference of opinions in the main event. I will agree with you that I do think the match was better on the Raw side.
Is it just the cringe from Shawn and Diesel that makes you go
that does not help. I just think also there was more story. I'm big on storylines. I think there's just more there with Luger Hogan than there was set up for Sid Shawn at this point.
I don't know. I just really like it when Sid and Shawn are in the ring. I think they just work really well.
So you get no complaints from me. You know I like Sid Vicious.
Dude, I can't wait to gush over his entrance when he beats Shawn. It's such a great entrance.
It's actually good that we said we're going to do just 1 month because there ain't no way we're going to do that'd be a long episode because this is already going to be a little bit.
Yeah. We're going to have to
we also we can go through some stuff. This probably relatively quickly.
Let me mention right quick the rating in the ratings war. It would be Raw winning 2.5 and Nitro had 2.4, so it was really close.
All right, so we'll click it. We're also going to let you know what happens in the pay-per-views. WCW had its Fall Brawl on September 17th of 95. This was in Asheville, North Carolina. Jacob, we can also do a. Do you want to do a pay-per-view count too? We'll quickly just go through the pay-per-view since there's no competition, and we'll just let you know anything noteworthy. So the first match was Johnny B. Bad versus Brian Pillman for the number one contender for the United States title.
The winner was B. Bad is good during this run.
He's so good as Johnny Bad. We'll get into his WWF run, but nowhere close as good as this.
Dude, I've seen him, I think, 3 weeks in a row. I'm like, man, I miss Johnny B. Bad.
So you know what? I think to me it is the whole Wild Man thing. I'm not feeling it.
If he was able to bring he could be Mark Mara, but there's still the Johnny B. Bad character. Oh, that would be great.
But Johnny Bad wins this. This was a very long match. So Johnny Bad wins a really long match. He wins with a kind of double cross. They go for a double crossbody, but Johnny Bad is the one who lands on top of the other guy for the pin. It's a unique finish. You don't really see that.
Yeah, that's pretty creative.
The next match, we'll go straight over it. Cobra versus Sergeant Pittman, or whatever his name is. Craig Pittman. Winner is Craig Pittman. Cobra has one of the worst entrance music I've ever heard in my life. If I find...
Weighing 270 pounds, Cobra!
It's pretty much just Morse code, but it's very annoying. And then Pittman won with an armbar. The next match, WCW television title match.
That whole feud between Pittman and Cobra is just awful. Absolutely awful.
Yeah, it's pretty much
all I wanted to say.
Pretty much for that feud. If you hadn't heard, if you haven't watched Superstars, you're not going to know what the hell these two dudes are doing.
No. And his finish was the Code Red, by the way. I just looked it up.
Code Red. But the next match was a WCW television title match, and it was Diamond Dallas Page with Diamond Doll and Max Muscle versus Renegade, who was the TV champion, with Jimmy Hart. And the winner was Diamond Dallas Page to be your new television title champion.
This is the only time I think that we saw. Is this like the only time we saw DDP with Max Muscle?
I think we saw him. I think we saw him one more time. I think he's in the match where he faces Johnny B. Bad.
Oh, yeah, because that plays into the finish. That's right.
Mm-hmm. And in case you don't know, Diamond Dallas Page is a heel character at this point. He's most famous for playing a baby face, but he is a heel at this point. Jake is going to have he has some recordings of DDP saying some funny things to the crowd. He works the crowd really well.
Yes. Oh, dude, he is he is so great at his crowd work, even here.
He's mid-card at this point, where he's nowhere near what the
things to be. Like a lower mid.
So that's another thing we get to see his rise. So that's cool.
He wins the title, right? Because he beats the Renegade.
Yes.
Yeah, the Renegade was just basically an Ultimate Warrior ripoff, and there was no substance behind it. They tried to push him hard because he was like, I think he was like workout buddies with Hogan or something.
Probably. That got you pretty far.
Yeah, that got you pretty far. But yeah, no, it just wasn't working. So yeah, it's a good call to get it off of him.
Before the next match, we get a weird Psychic Network video with Paul Orndorff. Paul Orndorff is not feeling very wonderful these days. So
certainly not.
Gary Spivey from the Psychic Network comes in.
I just looked this up recently. I just assumed that Psychic was just a WCW character, but no, that was a real dude.
No. I knew you didn't know that. I knew he was a real thing.
I thought it was just a character for WCW. Yep. This whole time I had no idea he was a real Psychic. Total scam.
In case anyone's too young, it's total scam thing they did back then.
Yeah, Psychics don't.
I'll include a picture of him. He also looks ridiculous.
Yeah, he is absolutely ridiculous.
But he essentially is helping Paul Orndorff become Mr. Wonderful again. That's all that is. All right. And then the next match is the WCW World Tag Team title match. The Stud Stable with Colonel Parker versus Harlem Heat with Sister Sherry.
I just do not care at all about Bunkhouse Buck. Or Dick Slater.
No. This I actually have a note here. It says this gimmick screams '80s NWA or something like that.
Though. I love the Colonel.
Rob Parker's hilarious. Dick Slater and Bunkhouse Buck. Nah, man, that's not doing it. Not in the mid '90s, man.
I'm sorry, they're probably. I mean, Dick Slater is actually pretty good, wrestler, but this just wasn't working.
And Dick Slater can apparently whoop some tail. Apparently, he beat Sting and he beat a famous football player. I forget his name. He played for the Raiders.
100% believe that Dick Slater can beat the crap out of Sting.
100% believe. Well, also, if no one has seen Dick Slater, he's not a very attractive man, and you don't have to pick a fight with ugly people. They have nothing to lose.
Absolutely nothing to lose.
But this match, the Harlem Heat won, and they're setting up a love angle between Sister Sherry and Rob Parker.
Yeah.
And after the match, The Nasty Boys attack the Stud Stable. Yeah, Nasty Boys. You'll see Jiggle and I don't give a damn about the Nasty Boys. In fact, we can't really stand them.
No, I'm not really big fans of them. I know they're very popular and a lot of people like them, but it's just not for me. I much, like, in terms of, like, brawling tag teams, I much prefer the Red Warriors.
Oh, heck. Oh, dude, stop it. Everybody does, I would hope. But the next match is finally a match that people give a damn about. It is Ric Flair versus Arn Anderson. And Flair was wearing red, so wouldn't you know it, Arn Anderson won.
Yep.
During this match, Brian Pillman comes out and he punches and kicks Flair. He essentially distracts Flair and allows Arn Anderson to hit the DDT on Flair for the win. You have anything on that one?
Yeah, because eventually it's going to be revealed what this storyline actually goes to. So it's just like such a convoluted way to get there.
Well, to this day, I was like, this storyline they're setting up doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's just like we're just going to reveal it. So eventually, of course, Flair turns on Sting, and so it's just you're faking fighting each other just to beat up Sting.
Well, and they're forming the Four Horsemen back is what this eventually going to be. But it's just like all of this was just to betray Sting.
Yeah, that's pretty much all it was for. It's just to turn on Sting. They just really wanted to prove that Sting is way too trusting.
Yeah, they just like, all right, we could just fight you, but we want to mess with your mind first. But yeah, we'll go over that in more detail as the story progresses. But the main event was a War Games match with Team Hogan, which consisted of Sting, Randy Savage, Lex Luger, Hulk Hogan, versus the Dungeon of Doom.
Is this the one where they're wearing like all army gear and they paint their faces like army?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, no, this is awful.
Yeah, this match really not so much going on because it consisted of Shark, Zodiac.
Yeah, Kamala.
Yeah,
Kamala at that time, which he was just taking. All these people were jobbers at this point. Except for maybe Ming. All these people were not beating one member of the other team, let alone all of them.
Right. So Team Hogan wins. Hogan won with a camel clutch, which was I thought was a unique finish because when do you not see him not weapon the leg drop? Or because they won, Taskmaster has to now enter the ring so Hogan can have his way with him. And yeah, I said that. So Hogan goes, or he doesn't really get to do much, to be honest, because the Giant comes out and he beats on Hogan and then snaps his neck. And then Hogan does his little Hogan twist that he does that Jacob loves so much. So that's just something that just grinds my gears, man.
It's just, I don't know. It's something about it.
But anyways, so Hogan has a hurt neck, and that's how the show ends with Team Hogan. Like, oh my God, is Hogan okay? Yeah, that's how it ends.